Hello, my dear friends. How are you today? Ready for some new stories Drama King prepared for you? Let's go to the first one, about OP's ex-wife, who abandoned her son and now demands to be in his life. But her son has another mother already. So a question to answer today is, should OP forgive his ex-wife and let her be in his son's life, or no? I think that everyone makes mistakes in life, but that doesn't mean that they have to pay for them for the rest of their life. Do you agree with me, guys? Also, listen to the end of the story to hear my opinion on the situation. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My ex-wife split from my son's life when he was 1. She had fertility problems, and we decided on a surrogate, who was a distant friend of ours. We agreed it'd be a traditional surrogate mom, as in she's the biological mother since we couldn't use my ex's wife's eggs, and we'd use my sperm via IUI. She was very open to help us, and then our son was born. We agreed she could have a small role in his life as a fun aunt we would see every so often, but legally, he was my ex's child. My ex realized it wasn't how she thought it would be. It became pretty evident she didn't connect with him, and because of that, she wasn't as involved. We did therapy. We tried to figure out how to make things work. All of it didn't do anything. First, she wanted to take a break from us to figure out what she wants. Then came to wanting a divorce, except she didn't want custody, just to have visitation. Months of going after her for child support or pushing her to come see her child. She stopped taking my calls. I accepted that I'd be raising my kid on my own. His biological mom spent more time with him. I wanted that, so he'd at least have some sort of maternal figure in his life with my ex out. 2 years later, we fell in love and started dating. Another 3 years, we got married. We decided she'd adopt him through step-parent adoption. It was a headache going through the legal process since she was the surrogate mother and signed off on her parental rights. With my consent and then proving my ex abandoned him, we were able to terminate my ex's rights so his mom can adopt him. All this time later, my son is 7 now. My ex came back asking to spend time with him now. My wife and I won't let her. One, because she's been out so long, so he doesn't know her. The other was her reaction after telling her no. She started telling everyone she left because I had an affair with my now wife, and that's how she got pregnant with our son. For 3 months, it was this whole headache because some family actually believed her. My wife is pregnant with our second child, so you can imagine that took a toll on her. She came to our house once apologizing, but she wants to see her son after missing out on so much time. I asked her to leave several times until we got police involved, but it made it worse and she ended up arrested for trespassing. My ex-mother-in-law, who's still somewhat involved in his life, was so angry because she had to bail my ex out. She told me my ex is obviously hurting over her mistake, and I just made everything worse instead of being compassionate enough to de-escalate the situation by talking to her. Not only did I hurt my ex more, she says, but also just hurt her chances of stability with an arrest on her record. She wasn't a big supporter when I got with my son's biological mom, and she's my ex's mom after all, so I'm not sure if I really was the a-hole, or she's more biased here. Am I the a-hole? Well, I think OP's ex-mother-in-law is a little bit delusional asking for compassion. Does she think a 7-year-old child is a puppy that will just play with her daughter and then forget about her? More than likely, OP's ex would start to introduce herself as OP's son's real mother and cause all kinds of pain to OP's son. I think OP is right not to let his ex be in his son's life. Also, she has no legal right for that, and if she keeps pushing for it, I think OP should get a restraining order. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Mulholland Master 121 says, not the a-hole, get a restraining order. Alert your kid's school to not, under any circumstances, release him to anyone except you and your wife. She's the one doing the escalation, not you, and you don't know how far she'll go. Keep yourself and your family safe. Farsmoke 2264 says, not the a-hole. If I'm reading it correctly, ex-wife is basically nothing to the child. She isn't the biological mother. She didn't stick around to be the legal mother. She disappeared and absolved herself from the child completely. So she's on her own. She has no connection to the child in terms of time and effort. She isn't the biological parent, nor has she seen him for 6 of his 7 years of life, and has no bond with him. So you are not being uncompassionate, nor are you the a-hole. She is nothing to him, of her own choosing, and no, you can't change your mind 6 or 7 years later and decide differently. Extension Battle 941 says, not the a-hole. She has no legal rights to your son, and even though your wife adopted him, he is still her bio son, And your ex has no right to come back after 6 years trying to confuse your poor son. She should be happy that he has a mom and a dad who love him. Context. So, 2 months ago, my great-grandfather passed away due to pancreatic cancer, and in his will, he left me, 19 male, his 2019 Mercedes-Benz GLC SUV. He always told me that he will leave me the car, because it's something he dearly loves and wants to see it in good hands. I drive a Volkswagen Polo 2017, which I've had for 2 years. It is my first car. My sister, 17 female, has just gotten her license. She admitted to passing the test out of pure luck, and she almost crashed my mother's car for texting. The reason I made this post. So, for the last month or so, ever since the car got put into my custody, my sister's been nagging me non-stop because she wants the Mercedes. She told me that I don't deserve to have 2 cars. I'm a selfish person who is inconsiderate to his family. I've helped her pay for her driving lessons and offered to help her get better at driving by letting her drive my Volkswagen, but she refused because she doesn't want to drive manual transmission. I've also been helping her save up for her first car by helping with my own money to her savings. She wanted a Fiat 500, and she has saved up enough to now get one used. I've considered giving her the car, but her recent attitude towards me made me remember what my great-grandfather told me about him wanting the car to be mine. I don't think anyone should drive a car like that with a fresh license. Yesterday at work, I got a phone call from my mother. She asked me how I am, and got to the point of the conversation when she mentioned taking my sister car shopping. I didn't really reply anything to that. She said, "You know, if someone wasn't that selfish, your sister wouldn't have to go through all the expense of purchasing a car." I replied, "Look, no matter how much nagging and labeling you do, I will not give her the car. It was left for me. She doesn't get to act like a ducking a-hole to me because she thinks she's entitled to it. Your car was almost totaled because she was texting. I won't give it to her because she wants to look cool in school for rolling up in a Benz. If I was her, I would spend that money on driving lessons because she needs it." Little did I know, I was being ambushed. My sister replied while I was on the call to my mother, implying that they were both on it. She said, "You're the biggest ducking, see you next Tuesday. You are nothing more than a selfish a-hole. Great-grandfather is probably rolling around in his grave watching his grandson be the biggest disappointment to this family." I hung up, and I just burst out in tears. My boss heard everything because she was screaming, and she gave me a hug and then went back to work. So currently I use both cars, sometimes this, sometimes that. I don't want to sell either, but maybe it'll be a good thing if I need to take either car to the mechanic. I feel like an a-hole. What do you think? Update. My mother called me about 10 minutes ago, apologizing about yesterday. She told me that my sister is grounded, and after speaking with my father, they took out their contributions to her savings for a car. Well, I think OP enumerated good reasons why sister shouldn't have the car, and why in particular great-grandfather wanted OP to have it. All else aside, the car was left to OP, and OP's sister is acting awful self-entitled to expect OP to give his inheritance just because why? She'd like to have it? And now let's see what the community has to say. Disney Buckeye says, "Not the a-hole. I'm very sorry about the loss of your great-grandfather. He gave the car to you for a reason. Your sister is not entitled to anything, and if your great-grandfather wanted her to have it, he'd have left it to her. I mean, he thought about this enough that he singled you out in his will so that you would inherit the car. So keep the car. You are going so far above and beyond by giving her money to buy her own car. I'd probably stop that now if you're still contributing. It was never your responsibility. But after the way she treated you, definitely stop." JRM1102 says, "Not the a-hole. It's your car to use as you see fit. They need to back off, but so do you. Stop getting so involved with your sister's car issues. Stop helping. Just leave it alone." Faded Quill says, "Not the a-hole. The car was left to you, end of story. Your entitled sister isn't kind or even polite to you, so I'm not sure on what basis she believes she's earned the right to steal your inheritance. She's also overlooking the fact that the insurance premiums for a Mercedes for a 17-year-old new driver are going to be insanely high. Almost as insane as your parents thinking she'll drive it safely. Not the a-hole. It's yours. Enjoy your grandfather's gift." My boyfriend has been going through a divorce for the last 6 months. It would be over already, but his ex-wife won't agree to what he's offering her, even though he's been more than generous, considering they were only married for 2 years, and the bulk of what they have is because of what he had pre-marriage, or what his family helped them buy. On top of that, He pays for everything right now, and she's just spending his money like it's unlimited on stupid stuff like luxury vacations. It bothers me because we're expecting, so I feel like she's trying to sabotage our financial future and uses her son as an excuse so nobody calls her out. Unfortunately, his family love her since they started dating as teens. They asked my boyfriend about her in front of me because she's not been responding to them, and they want to see the son. The conversation turned to the divorce, and his dad was scolding him and telling him not to make it hard on her, even though my boyfriend has done everything to make it easy for her. I wanted to defend him, so I mentioned how my boyfriend has been kind to her, and she's money hungry, which is why she isn't making it easy for him. The mood immediately changed, and his family were giving me rude looks. They all think she isn't like that, but she's good at playing the victim around people. They were defending her, so I was defending my boyfriend, but he told me to stop. Now he's mad at me since whenever I say anything bad about her, they start giving him a lot of crap. He told me not to speak about her ever again, especially not in front of his family. And I overheard his sister saying she couldn't believe he was still with me while on the phone to my boyfriend after this happened. Am I the a-hole? Well, for some reason, I have a feeling that OP intentionally left out information. 6 months into divorce, and OP is expecting? And he's still married? Also, I don't understand why OP thinks she would know her better than his family, that has known her since they were teenagers. I think it's rude to minimize their relationship to just their 2 years of marriage, when they clearly have known each other for much longer. Seems to me that OP is money hungry and projecting, as she is worried about finances, as she is expecting. And let's see if the community agrees with me. Sleeping Lucid says, "You're the a-hole. It's none of your business. His lawyer should be dealing with the money issue. That's it. That's the only person besides your boyfriend, not your husband, your boyfriend, that should be concerned with the finances." JKSHFJLSKSHA says, "You're the a-hole. It sounds like you've known this man and his ex for less than 6 months. You don't know what you're talking about, and you don't know the situation the way they do. Back off." Kiki Made Crazy says, "You're the a-hole. Our financial future? Oh honey, you are the girlfriend. You have 0.0 say in his money. She is still the wife, and sounds like she has custody of his son. Let him get divorced, get married, and then you can go back in the talk." My ex and I have been divorced for a while. After being together for several years, I left her for rather petty reasons. But I'd do it again, honestly. I've since remarried. My ex-wife has full custody of our 2 daughters, 13 and 16. I pay a little bit of child support. My ex hit tough times a couple years ago, but she still would rather have her custody of our daughters. And my daughters have built a life with their mom. No point in making them move. My ex-wife has nothing. Her account was apparently drained due to her parents' medical bills. I told my wife we needed to help her out. My wife is basically saying I'm having an emotional affair, and feels betrayed because despite her saying she didn't want us helping my ex out, I still do. But she literally has to provide for my daughters. No, the 3 figures a week for child support ain't gonna keep a roof over their heads. I feel I was justified in paying to keep the lights on and refrigerator stocked for my daughters, but I think I may be the a-hole for going behind her back. I pay $1,500 a month in child support, and for 5 months, I gave her the $2,100 a month for her rent once I figured out she got laid off. My wife didn't realize at first since I just changed the way I receive my checks from direct deposit and worked it out to where $2,100 went to her account. But my wife noticed eventually. My wife and I have combined finances. Ex got laid off after paying for her father's medical treatment and took a job at McDonald's. Info needed. You left your ex for a petty reason. You pay a little bit of child support. Your wife allegedly accused you of having an emotional affair simply because you told her you need to help your ex-wife out. Instead of trying to find a solution, you just went behind your wife's back. I have a hunch there's a ton of backstory here that is missing, and that the missing pieces make room to paint you in a really good light. I left her because I went from being the sole breadwinner to making about 30% of the total income, and she started acting like my opinion on things didn't matter, and making sly comments about carrying me. And she started throwing it in my face during disputes, even though I never did it to her, and didn't care that I made 100% of it. But when she was making 70% of our combined income, she didn't know how to act. Some would say I'm insecure for leaving, but I left because I wasn't going to stay with someone who was disrespecting me. I pay about $1,500 a month in child support. Me and my ex still have a friendship. Well, in my opinion, OP is in the wrong here. He pays $1,500 a month in child support. That's $18,000 a year to support his children, and definitely not his ex-wife's dad's medical bills. OP and his wife have joined finances, and OP is now going behind his wife's back, spending shared income on his ex-wife, not his kids, his ex-wife, who he is still in a friendship with. I doubt OP's wife will be able to trust him again. Let's see if the community agrees with me. Shark Smells says, "You're not the a-hole. Your current wife, however. What sort of person would let their partner's kids live in poverty? Is she always this selfish? This isn't about her." Judgmental Panda says, "Everyone sucks here. I sympathize with you on wanting to support your daughters, and in that sense, you are not in the wrong. However, going behind your wife's back is an issue. This isn't a decision that can be made by one person. That being said, there is a larger issue here. Why is your ex draining everything on her parents' medical bills at the expense of having nothing for her and her daughters? I know this sounds heartless, but how are you so sure that the money you gave her isn't just going to her parents, and she will need more money soon?" Maxis B says, "You're the a-hole. You have combined finances, which means you don't just get to give money to whomever you want without your wife's consent. If you feel your daughters aren't being cared for properly, then you'll have to go through legal channels or have an in-depth conversation with your wife. As it stands, you're the a-hole.